Welcome back, everyone, to the weekly Armchair Sports Talk podcast. This is your United show. This is Devil's Advocate. Man United have made a signing, guys. Well, verbally agreed, as per every journalist in the world at the moment. So we're here tonight to talk about the signing of Christian Eriksen to Manchester United. I would say would be the Wesley Schneider, I suppose, light of Manchester United. Transfer rumours were always linked to them every single year. So looks like finally Manchester United have got their man in Christian Eriksen on a free transfer as a free agent, and it's the first signing of the Erik Ten Hag era as Manchester United manager. Joined here this evening by Marc, Fred, and Reece. Here to talk all things United today. We'll break down the Christian Eriksen transfer. We're going to talk about where he will fit in at Manchester United. We'll also discuss, I suppose, his role at United, and also what maybe challenges may come Erik Ten Hag's way in terms of personnel and the structure of Manchester United's formation with Christian Eriksen in it and what it might look like. And we also will talk about Cristiano Ronaldo towards the end of the podcast, because I know people will be asking your questions in regards to that, so don't worry. We will talk about Ronaldo as well, but just get a full round robin, get to talk to the whole panel here. Marc, haven't seen you, buddy, in quite a while. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. Thank you very much, mate. Unbelievably busy few weeks in my personal life. Fortunately, it's come outside of the in the off season. Sorry, but yeah, all good, brother. Thanks for having me on.
Good, good, good. And always great to have you on, pal. And look, delighted to say that we're finally on a show where a bit of positivity and looking forward to something great. Fred, we are just talking off camera. We haven't spoken since Brighton away, and that was a weekend, we'll just say. But how are you, pal? How's life been?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, I've made it my sort of mission to just not talk to the world after that Brighton away game. So, yeah, I think a few months is enough now. This signing's good enough for me to sort of come out of my hole, and like you said, it's a bit of positivity to start the week. It's always a good thing. So, yeah, I'm very well, thank you, and I hope you're well and everyone watching is well too.
Absolutely. Hope everybody is well. And for once, I'm good. I'm good. I'm not moaning about anything. Well, we'll see it at minute about 45 on the podcast, so I'm moaning about something. But yeah, look, I'm good. I'm in good spirits. Reece, my man, you've been watching all sorts of sports over the weekend, wrestling, football. You've been doing your own streaming.
I
How are
have.
you in life right now?
I'm not too bad actually. I done a 6 hour, 50-minute stream yesterday. So I'm just like rolling in with punches. I'm generally really good
I
right
wish
now.
I had the time.
I got plenty to kill, but I'm generally in right now. Like mentally, physically, I'm in good shape. Yeah, I'm actually really good right now.
Good, good. That's good to hear. So always great to see your input in the group chat as well as always. But we will move on. Christian Eriksen, Marc, player of Man United who've been linked with since 2012. We've been seeing many different summers, even before you at Spurs, that we always had linked to him. Now it looks like Erik Ten Hag looks like prospectively he's going to be the first midfielder that Erik Ten Hag will be bringing in. Obviously, prospectively, Frankie de Jong is that story there. We may see him come in. Martinez, we don't know whether he's coming in as a centre midfielder or centre half. First of all, what are your initial thoughts just about the signing itself and the quality of player that we're bringing in?
Yeah, the typical word I'd use for it is smart. I think it's a very, very smart signing by United. He will obviously be very much aware of a Ten Hag type system. Very good person to have as a rotation. I think you'll see that he'll start a lot of games too. A very, very big player, very intelligent player, will be good for a lot of the youth players, I think, as well. I think we've missed a little bit of that. I think someone that's obviously got a lot of experience on his shoulders that will be able to provide many players, actually, not just necessarily the youth setup, but perhaps sort out some of the unrest amongst the squad. But, we were linked with him even when Fergie was the manager. and it seems like a long time coming. And when I had to remind myself of his age today, obviously only being 30. He's still got a few years left, give or take. And listen, I think we'll probably see a few faces come in this summer. Obviously, we've got pretty much that left back, Malacia, and Eriksen. Talks about Romero. Obviously, the awful news about Ronaldo, but we'll probably touch upon that a little bit as well. Not ideal, but I think we'll see a few more faces. But I think this is a very, very smart signing, and I hope that this is there's going to be a few more to come.
Definitely. I think if you look at the way Ten Hag wants to play and having control, I think Christian Eriksen is a smart signing, not just because obviously it's a free transfer. Look, that helps us put more into our budget in terms of, obviously the more priority targets in terms of, the Malacia, obviously Martinez, Frankie de Jong, players like that who will be coming in. But you mentioned it rightly, Mark. His experience, like he's played in the Premier League with Tottenham and Brentford. He's went to Inter Milan. He's played at Ajax. He's played in a multitude of attacking systems, probably bar the Inter one, because Antonio Conte is more counter-attack based. But when you look at the systems he's played in, he's a shoe-in to come in and help some of these players to grow into it. I think as well, I mentioned this to Reece, I think, a couple of weeks ago, like the Europa League. I think he's going to be like the Mkhitaryan player in a system when Jose won the Europa League in 2017. I think maybe Eriksen. I'm not getting ahead of myself to say we're going to win it now straight away. But I think, like, if you're looking at the Europa League campaign in that similar position, I think Christian Eriksen can be that Mkhitaryan-esque type player.
Yeah, very good point, actually. Yeah,
I think he can be that player, and I also think, like, the leadership part, like we've lost big characters in dressing room, like Matic, Mata, whatever you think about him. Paul Pogba as a character as well in the dressing room, very well liked. Jesse Lingard, very well liked in the dressing room. Like, we've lost a lot of that kind of then players in the dressing room. So I think Christian Eriksen coming in is a welcome addition, not just for his football qualities, but I think his qualities as a character and his experience. And like, if you're Hannibal Mejbri right now, or you're Garnacho right now, you're delighted a player like that's coming in, because you can learn from Christian Eriksen, and you'll see how he carries himself, and you'll see kind of what he can do as a football player. Fred, obviously he's played them 6 months at Brentford, obviously coming back from a very tragic thing that did happen in the Euros last summer. What were your thoughts on Eriksen's quality for them 6 months at Brentford and his overall impact?
I thought he was phenomenal. I mean, there were certainly question marks over whether he would be able to sort of maintain his form that he showed pre-heart condition. However, he was just pivotal in Brentford's season. I mean, the second half that they had, the run that they went on towards the end, I think he was one of the most, one of the biggest chance creators in the league. And they went on a very good run, and I think he was the catalyst behind that. So, yeah, if someone of that quality can have that much of an impact in like a lower league team or a top bottom 10 team, what could he do with better players around him? It was a very shrewd and clever signing or approach from us. I won't say signing yet. I'm very old school until they've got the shirt on the website. I won't call it a signing, but I'm very surprised that no one else was in for him, actually, given the form that he showed last season. And it's very unlike us to sign someone of that quality for free as well. And given the likes of Mata, Matic have left, even Pogba too, I think it's a fantastic acquisition. I think the big bonus, you've mentioned Europa League football next season, he's going to have a big part to play in that, but next season is also the introduction of 5 subs in the league. Yes. So he's going to get minutes. He's going to rotate with Bruno. I think he's going to play in that 8 role. He is that creator. He does link play very well. Very good at linking defense and attack. So yeah, I think he slots in very well, and the manager seems to know his game, and he seems to complement Ten Hag's game as well. So yeah, very clever signing on our part.
Yeah, and also as well, like you mentioned, Ten Hag actually gave him a chance to train when he came back from that accident at the time at Ajax. So them two probably have a very good relationship already, from that time as well. So it's definitely something that'd be very interesting to see how.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think this is a big thing because there's no coincidence that all of I'm the last person to believe all the paper talk, the links, but it's very interesting seeing that it is all current or ex-Ajax players. So it's very, I think we've obviously got a cultural problem, and I think this is something Ragnick would have mentioned to Ten Hag before he left. So there's no coincidence that he's going for players he trusts, not just in ability, but off the field professionalism and just sort of work ethic and motivation. And I think with Eriksen, he is a professional. You don't see that, you hear all these off the field issues with him. He's consistent. You know what you're going to get with him. So I think this is just part of the cultural reboot. We're just trying to get players the manager trusts, and it's good to see the club actually backing him in that regard.
I feel like we've been going through this cultural reboot now for a very, very long time, but I don't disbelieve what you're saying. I think you're absolutely right. Mm-hmm. I think a player like him is perfect for the squad.
Yeah, 100%. And it's something that's been well needed, I think, this summer, especially with the characters that we did lose. People might talk about some of these players not playing much, but they would have been players in the dressing room that probably, in the time of kind of disharmony, they probably would have kept it together. Though, like some your Matic, these players like that, Cavani even, like he was someone who was very well respected in the dressing room. So I think Eriksen coming in at this point definitely is that. Reece, obviously this situation now with Christian Eriksen, he's coming into a midfield at the minute. Now he's a very versatile player. He can play in the wing, he can play in the 8, or he can play in the 10. When you look at Christian Eriksen coming into Manchester United, and I will reverse this back to both Marc and Fred as to where they think and where they want to see him. But for you, he's played in a multitude of positions. When you look at Manchester United's formation, let's say if Erik ten Hag does go to that 4-2-3-1, which I believe myself, he may go to that next season. Where do you see Eriksen's best chance to either get minutes or to start every week?
For me, I don't see him playing as a 10 unless it's the Europa League. For me, it might sound a bit crazy, but I only see him playing in two positions, and that's as an 8 and the double pivot. And I see him playing on the right wing. And the reason I see him playing on the right wing is his best football. I think even Spurs fans will agree with me. His best play for Tottenham was when he played in that season where they finished second in the league, when he played on the right wing. Dele Alli played as the second striker, and I can't remember who played on the left wing, but I know they had like Paulinho in the midfield, who was giving them that energy, Dembele, and it let him in his role. In a way, he was playing as a false winger in that sense, similar to what Juan Mata was for us under Van Gaal. And I've said it a few times before, and I'm like, Juan Mata is a phenomenal technical player, but Christian Eriksen is what Juan Mata should have been. He does press more. He's more aggressive with the ball. He's tackle based. He's more physical. So you're going to get, personally, I think Juan Mata is one of the best technical players the Premier League's ever seen. But for me, Christian Eriksen is the best all-round technical player that I've seen in the Premier League in many years, compared to, obviously, in terms of like David Silva, who's one of them, Paul Scholes. They're two examples that come to mind, but I would put Eriksen not in that same bracket like of Silva, but I would put him just below it in terms of what he can do, versatility, creativity, and effect on the ball. So for me, it's either in the pivot as the number 8 or on the right wing and let him do the creative damage from there. I think I would actually prefer that, because I want to see the left winger be more of a goal scoring threat next year. I want to see the right hand side actually be the creative outlet, and that's what I think he would suit for me personally. I think he'd be brilliant out there. He doesn't have the pace, but if you put him in the wing, I guarantee he's smarter than all of our wingers combined.
Yeah, I think on the right wing, he actually could be a decent option. Like, let's say if Ronaldo is still there.
Yeah.
Touch wood on that. Eriksen whipping balls into Ronaldo could be a fantastic option. But I want to bring that up to Marc, actually. You kind of segue into me, kind of like...
He would be my 10 in the Europa League, though.
Yeah, I think he's my 10 in Europa League. as well. I think that's why I think when you look how Mkhitaryan, when he came into Man United, he kind of went between the right midfield and number 10 if people for a season. And for Europa League games in number 10, though Mkhitaryan was really good. Obviously, I think Eriksen's a way better player than Mkhitaryan ever was. But like in that respect, he's in that kind of mold of player.
He was just unlucky that he was forced out of the club too early. I think if we'd actually played him more as if we had played him on the right hand side and Mata as the number 10, you would have seen the best out of Mkhitaryan. Yeah, that's what I believe in it, because I still find it funny that people think Mkhitaryan was a shit football player. There are people that I don't understand. I thought he was a quality player. I still think he is, to be fair.
He is a very good player, but look.
But Eriksen is better. I don't disagree. But Eriksen is a better player. I don't disagree.
Yeah, I think just in that mold, I think he can definitely be of that mold. Mark, one thing we struggled on last season was actually not defending set pieces, but was scoring from set pieces. Now I know we have Bruno Fernandes, who was before last season very good from corner kicks, free kicks. Last season he wasn't at the races. We now have Christian Eriksen, who was like a dead ball expert, from like free kicks and corners. Do you think Christian Eriksen coming in can maybe help the likes of Raphael Varane, Harry Maguire to maybe get more goals on set pieces, considering like the quality of his delivery?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, he does bring that to the squad. A dead ball specialist certainly will provide more great crosses, free kicks, corners. But also, I think probably it'll be an opportunity for some of the other players to maybe learn off him. And this is obviously what a 30-year-old experienced man will give you. So yeah, I think I think that is certainly a thing, and obviously we're very hopeful of that because of the shite that we've seen for the last 2 years. So it's certainly a plus. Going back to the position, I've seen a lot of tweets today. Murphy's stuff on TalkSport, a load of bollocks.
We won't go there at that because
I was going to mention him as well.
Yeah, we won't go there because I replied to his tweet today, and I even had Liverpool fans agree with me. So
I've seen it.
Yeah,
we saw that.
We won't go there with that one. Yeah, continue on that one, Mark.
Listen, I really get very frustrated with people like him and even United fans sometimes. You know, they're always expecting these luxurious signings, but they don't really think about it pragmatically, what the type of players we need. Yeah. And if you've got someone like that we've all alluded to, that is able to provide you with small attributes here and there, whatever that might be, experience and that's what you need. And this, with 5 substitutes coming this season, with you can't have it best of both worlds, where you want luxurious signings, but also you need squad depth. He's a perfect man to be able to provide that squad depth. And it's so frustrating when I see this from fans and all sorts. I think he's an absolute quality signing and will play in many positions. I think Reece was absolutely spot on. I think a number 8, maybe a number 10 Europa. I think he's spot on there as well. And even on the wings a little bit too. But yeah, I think it's a brilliant signing. I'm very, very pleased.
Yeah, 100%. It's something that I think we've needed. Someone who can play, like, can be multifunctional, can play these different positions. And, like, people say you want specialists. Yes, you need specialists in your squad, 100%. But you do need players who can do a bit of everything. Like, I know they're different players altogether, but John O'Shea was a player that could play literally anywhere and do a job. Like, for us, he could play right back, centre back, left back, centre midfield, played on the wing, even jumped in goal.
Goalkeeper. Sorry, I particularly throat.
Yeah, like jumped in goal for a few minutes. You have players like that, who can be multifunctional and they can help you in the squad and be reliable in the big games, small games. Well, there's never a small game when you're at Man United, but you know what I mean. Like, having a player like that in your football club is invaluable. Like, you need players like your O'Shea's, you need your players like your Fletchers, your Treason Parks, players who will play in a position where they can do a job for you on the right, in the middle, in the back line if needs be. We often seen Carrick drop into centre half. Like, you need these types of players who can be reliable to do a job in a multitude of positions. I think Christian Eriksen is going to do that. Now, I'm not saying Christian Eriksen would be like a John O'Shea where you go right back for a game. That's not going to happen. But, like, you know what I mean? In terms of midfield, in terms of the front three, he can definitely go in there and he can do a job and a very good one. at that. Mark, so in terms of that, where do you think then, like, if you're banking on it next season for the Premier League and Europa League, you're saying the Europa League number 10, you think he may fit in, but in the Premier League, would you like to see him kind of doing a kind of more box to box role?
Yeah, I think considering obviously what happened last summer, considering he's obviously 30, which isn't too old, but I think under a Ten Hag system, he knows him well. Eriksen knows Ten Hag well. I think you'll probably more than likely see him in an 8 role. I would like to see him as a box to box. I think he would be a great person to have alongside Frankie De Jong if we get him. I think they would suit each other really well, and that's where I see him certainly. But I think in the Europa League, again, squad depth is very important. I think you might see him a little bit further forward. I think against European teams, it's a little bit, I would say, obviously Europa League being a little quite physical as well, coming across teams that you're not necessarily accustomed with. I think that he will be able to give the team that idea to make breakthroughs, break a back line and teams that sit deep. So that's how I think it would go.
Yeah, and it's the fact that like in the Europa League you're going to come up across different challenges every week. You might be, just to throw an example, you might be Rangers away at Ibrox. I have to bring that up there for my man down there at the bottom right. Or you could be up against, a Celta Vigo one week. Do you know what I mean? There's different types of teams so that you can play against. And I think having a player like Eriksen to help you in a certain typical like tactical setup, I think his experience is going to be invaluable, especially in Europe as well, because he's played in the Europa League and the Champions League. And we all seen him when Spurs did get to the Champions League final that season. He was very integral to a part of that team. Obviously, they didn't win it. We all seen the dodgy penalty Liverpool got that day. Just get that in for Steve. But yeah, it's one of them. It's one of them. Fred, I want to bring this up to you. Bruno Fernandes. Obviously, in his first 2 years in Man United, he was a very integral part of this squad. Very successful, goals and assists from everywhere. Joe, brilliant leader within the team, and Joe massively improved the Man United team that was devoid of any creativity. Now looking at United's squad, obviously Bruno didn't have the best of seasons for his standards last season. Do you think a sign like this could be like a catalyst for Bruno to up his game and get back to the way he was? Because we've seen how when Alex Telles came to the club, it gave Luke Shaw a driving force, and Luke Shaw did perform that bit better. Do you think this type of signing could maybe rejuvenate Bruno Fernandes?
I hope so. I think in Bruno's case, I think it's more the forward players that were the issue. I mean, he ended up having one of the highest chance created in the league, despite the season we had. So there was an argument that the players in front of him, either weren't converting those or making certain runs, etc. No doubt, players around Bruno of a higher quality are going to benefit him. No doubt about that. So whether it's a competition factor, like you mentioned, Telles and Shaw, I'm not too sure. But I can certainly see those two playing with each other, playing a lot of games together. I think with Bruno, they're two very different players. I mean, even in Bruno scores more goals than Eriksen. I think in Eriksen's best season, Bruno would have scored more goals and got more assists in the last few years at United alone. My concern is what's in front of the midfield and what's behind the midfield, and that seriously needs addressing. And I'm sure we'll get onto it shortly, but the Ronaldo news is sort of throwing a big spanner in the works now, because these guys are creative midfielders and they feed strikers and attackers. So that's one fundamental that needs to be considered. The other is we still haven't signed a defensive mid, and Eriksen's a fantastic signing, but is he going to single-handedly change our fortunes and take this squad to the next level? Unfortunately not. We need a few more players in addition to Eriksen to reap the benefits from that. But yeah, I definitely think this will definitely help Bruno. They're two different players, and equally I think Bruno might have a few nights off now, with these creative players in, because I'm sure as it's probably evident that he does get burnt out because he plays every game. And the other thing about Eriksen, he's very reliable. I think he's got quite a good injury record, obviously heart condition aside, but in terms of footballing injuries, I think his record's actually a lot better than most players. I mean, we saw Pogba, how many months and he would miss throughout a season. So we're forced to play our existing midfielders. So yeah, I think they'll, from a rotation perspective, definitely he'll complement him because he's a quality player. But yeah, I think I'd still question what's ahead of the midfield and certainly what's behind them.
Yeah, I think what's ahead of midfield at the minute it's quite concerning with the news.
Mind if I jump in for a second, actually?
Yes.
It's just actually on the back of what Freddie was saying about his injury record. I actually just checked. Overall, so say since 10-11 season, right? So he had the flu for 4 days, so we won't count that. But this has been labelled as an unknown injury. That was 13-14, so he went 3 years without an injury. That was 24 days. He then went another 2 years without an injury. That was that was for his knee. That was 27. 18-19, it was abdominal strain. That was 28 days. He had a strain in the 19-20 season for 5 days, and then obviously he was out for 232 days because of his heart condition. In terms of that in total, it won't tell me how many games he missed because of the heart condition, but he missed in total 2, 7, 11, 20. He missed 21 games since 2010-11 season.
That's incredible.
That's his injury
very,
record.
very good. I've had more injuries than that, and I don't play football.
But yeah.
But there you go. Just what I thought, just because most you were saying about that, I thought I would just double check. That is his injury record. It's about 21 games missed in 12 years.
And what that does prove is that he looks after himself. That's very good. And he's coming to a club Manchester United where we have seen down the last 4 or 5 years Paul Pogba missed games through injury. We've obviously been missing different players through injury, through suspension, other things. But it looks like Christian Eriksen is someone who looks after himself. He never really gets injured. And look, if he can keep that injury record going and stay fit, that can massively help us next season, especially with a lot of games Thursday, Sunday next season. If he can continue that, then look, that's something that can definitely help Erik ten Hag, especially help adapt his tactical setup. And not only that as well, get to know his players and play a consistent 11 going forward. Because I think one thing we've seen a bit under Solskjaer is he didn't know his best 11 for a while, and there was players dipping in and out. And then he eventually found it at one point. But even under Ralph Rangnick, the team was chopping and changing every week. 1 week we're playing 4-4-2 with 2 midfielders up front. The next week we're playing 4-3-3. Hopefully under Erik ten Hag, this squad, this football club can just have a bit of continuity. It can have, a fresh style of play, a fresh setup. Now, obviously, it can't be all fresh players because you can't get rid of everyone. Overnight, that can't happen. But hopefully, we can see more consistency in terms of not just the style of play, but the personnel who are there as well. Fred said something in the private chat, slagging off Marc. I'm not going to say it here publicly because I don't want to be hurting Marc's feelings here.
It was funny though. I've taken it like a soldier. Don't worry.
Probably
Fred, just for our viewers, guys, Fred is absolutely roasting Marc in our private chat here. So we leave that where it is.
It's the last time he comes on.
There is something quite funny though about Marc getting roasted by Fred because obviously he's a Pastor fan.
Yeah.
Put that in your Sunday sermon and smoke it.
Yeah. Reece.
Yeah, mate.
Just like in terms of Man United's window going forward, I just want to kind of segue into that because
naturally
looks like we're getting Firewood's left back. Looks like we are in for Lisandro Martinez. It looks like we are hopefully getting Frankie de Jong over the line. We've had different journalists on this podcast in the last 2 weeks. They told us we're getting Frankie de Jong, that Frankie de Jong is going to get done.
Well, their reps on the line.
Yeah. When you look at this now, you look at our window is starting to accelerate. Now you see the business that we are potentially going to do. Hopefully, De Jong is obviously the holy grail of our window. I think, in terms of who we in terms of who we get in.
Yeah.
But for you, like obviously Martinez is multifunctional. He's centre back, left back, defensive midfield. Militia is obviously left back, and Frankie De Jong can play anywhere across the midfield three. But for you, what else is missing? Like, what else do you think Man United need? Because we've lost a lot of players, and it feels like even if we get all these players in there, we're still probably missing that one or two. Do you think maybe we need another statement signing alongside of Frankie De Jong?
I don't think we need another statement. I don't think we need another statement signing. I think we need another multifunctional player. But I was actually going to come to that, to be honest. Like, I do think this is a reflection. I do think we do need to look at a goalkeeper. But the question is, what kind of goalkeeper do you want? And I'm sick of having the same conversations with people about goalkeepers. Because people tell me what they want, but then they go and say the exact opposite. For me, I want a goalkeeper that's actually going to push the current number one, so to the point that he actually eventually will fuck off. And then we get a long-term option that makes sense. And I've got nothing against De Gea, and you know this. I've got nothing against Henderson, although I do think he believes his own hype. When I look at what United need in a long-term number one, I don't know if Henderson's going to cut it, but he needs he will need the chance. So that Forest loan move makes sense. De Gea, do I think he's going to learn from his mistakes? No. I personally don't. It's why I would bring back Sergio Romero. And I know he would force him out. But for me right now, United, either they go and get a number one right now that they know is going to replace De Gea. Because if they don't believe in Henderson enough that they've loaned him out like this, then fine. Or they invest in a position that really should matter, and that's a long-term centre-back. Because I'm looking at our centre-back options. Varane is brilliant, but his injury record is quite concerning. Maguire is hit and miss, although he did have a great first season, which I have to admit, although I'm not a big fan of Maguire, everybody knows that, but he did prove in his first season he was actually quite good. And he does need a defensive midfielder in front of him. I don't think Lisandro Martinez, if we sign him, is going to be the centre-back. I think if we do play him, I think he will be used further forward because of his aggressiveness in the midfield. I think that's something that he would use him for. But for me, it's a multifunctional forward. Look at a goalkeeper, centre-back, and I would say defensive midfielder. Right back, it looks like it's going to be Dallo, but that's iffy. I've seen Wan-Bissaka doing TikTok. Well, if he can do TikTok, then I can do something good. But I want to see some seriousness from players next year. Not
can I touch on your point on Wan-Bissaka there, Reece? I just want to kind of jump in on that, if I may.
I've been impressed, though, I'll admit, but it's not enough for me.
Can I just I kind of just want to touch on this. I know, like, look, we talked about kind of transfer window for detail, but I just want to kind of touch on something. And I want to say this in terms of social media, in terms of players and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We, as a fan base last season, were saying these players need to be doing more. They need to be doing more on the pitch. They need to be doing more off the pitch. Players are starting to do more off the pitch, and now they're getting slaughtered. So which is it? Like, this is not directed towards you, Reece. I'm generalizing this because I'm seeing a lot on social media.
I've seen a few comments. I know what you mean. I want to see more of them focused on the football side. I know some players have outside commitments, and I've got nothing against that. Whether like they want to, like, as an example, feed the kids and fight the government. If that's what they want to do, fine. As an example, I'm more focused on. I'm not here to judge a football player on their personal life. I'm here to judge them as a football fan because they're playing the sport that I've played. It's a sport that I love, and they're playing for a club that I absolutely adore and love myself. And I'm judging them on that, and that's what I'm looking at. The outside commitment stuff for me, I really don't care, unless it's some shit that I don't want to see. That's the last swear word from me. There's some things like that I really don't want to see because us United fans, obviously, there's one player in mind. I'm not going to say his name, but we all know who I'm thinking of. That's something I don't want to see going forward because his own little cult fan base is making me sick. It's actually got to the point where I'm actually taking my time away from Twitter because of like the tweets that are going around. But if they want to go and do other things that really matters to them, then go and do it. But for me, it's purely the football. And when I seen the TikTok stuff with Wan-Bissaka, yeah, I'm not a TikTok fan, as you can imagine, but he was working hard. I want to see that translate onto the pitch, though. I want to see all the hard work he does in training. If it doesn't translate to the pitch, then it's worthless. But I like what I've seen so far, and that for me is important. But in terms of your comment about players are doing more off the field because they weren't doing enough and they were doing very little on the field, I agree they do get slaughtered for it. I think the one thing is though, it's generalised. It's very specific players. It's either the English players or it's a very small mixed group of the foreign players, or it's just your personal FC bollocks that doesn't help. And that's for me a problem. I want to see a collective going forward that's improved, not just the individual being targeted. I want to see the whole team improve long term. If they want to do outside stuff, then fine. I've got no issue with that. But I'm only interested in the football.
I just wanted to touch on that because I think a lot of people are criticising, like I'm going to use Wan-Bissaka as a massive example here because people are saying he needs to work on different facets of his game. And you can see by that video, he's looking at, the different elements in his game, the first phase, the second phase, and the third phase. And you can see him working on that in that video, which is all the criticisms that he faced last season. So, like, this is where I think, like, look, people are just moaning for the sake of moaning. They want something to dig at. And this is where, like, for me, like, I'm looking at this and saying, why are people taking Wan-Bissaka out for actually working on his game when people are saying 6 months ago he should be working more on the ball in his positional play? He's doing that right there, and people are giving him, use for doing that. So that's where, for me, there's a line, and, that's where social media, look, we all know it's a brutal place. I've been
where the
social media abuse. Everyone else has, it's one of them, But
is that not generally where the flip flop comes from? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you see people flip flopping their opinions all the time. Like, I'm not gonna change my opinion on certain players even if they have an absolute world season next year. Like, my opinion is not going to change unless it's 2 or 3 years consistent. Like, 1 year's not enough. But Wan-Bissaka, I don't think he's particularly good enough for United. But at least he's actually willing to work for it, and I'm fine with that. If he generally just came back to United, showed like 10% more than what he did, and it didn't translate to the football pitch, then I'd be like, may as well just sell him. But if he's putting in 50-60% more than what he did before and is building over time, I'm fine with that. I don't know about you guys, but for me, it's aptitude and application for me going forward. If I don't see any of it, I don't care. I want you gone. Like that whole sentimental stuff we spoke about in depth last year, mate. We spoke about it in depth last year. The sentimental stuff for me, can't be bothered with it anymore. Generally, can't be bothered. No. If you don't apply yourself, if you don't actually show a proper attitude to the football club, I don't care if you're on 300 grand a week or if you're on 50 quid. Go.
I think the most interesting thing in terms of the social media training pics and videos is the Ten Hag training. I think it's refreshing seeing a manager actually taking the training themselves, not their assistants. And so the speed of play, I know most of it was last week. And it was the young players and a few of the first team. That's what I'm paying attention to in terms of players.
Yeah, I agree.
The words all on the pitch is all that the performance on the pitch, all that matters. If there were trophies for most juiced up, gym junkie, then Scott McTominay would win the Ballon d'Or. This happens every year. Or if how high Langer can jump, no one gives a shit. If these guys can actually play football, come the beginning of the season, that's all that matters. So I personally don't pay much attention to that. But it's good to see they're working at least. You can't win either way, like you mentioned, Keane. All the players can't win. But the Ten Hag training videos look very promising, and that's just what I think most of us expected as well. So
it makes you fall in love with the club again very quickly, doesn't it? I don't want to get carried away, but
I was sure we're going to win the Europa League last week after watching the video. If people who don't know him, or they have to book him a hotel for Budapest already.
Oh, he has, folks. No joke. He's actually
Yeah, I
booked
sent
the same
twice
hotel I
screenshots.
stayed
Already
in.
booked my hotel for Budapest. As again, I'm
Oh,
not getting
man.
carried away. I just booked my hotel.
Budapest. Have you been to
Literally,
Budapest before?
Yeah.
It's the best city I've ever been to.
Oh, yeah.
He's actually
Home
booked the same
statues.
hotel I stayed in.
Has he?
The resort's brilliant. It's a brilliant posh hotel. Like not particularly posh, but the presidential stuff is quality. Like, you'll love it. And the
Yeah,
beer's
and
only
my
$150,
friend Brian,
mate, at the
my
bar.
friend,
Oh, yeah,
my
the
friend
beer's
Brian
very
has
cheap.
called me a presidential. You know what? I'm not going to repeat this word. 'cause
Oh, I can have a
swear
guess.
when
I think there is one thing from the training videos that really has highlighted for me. Actually, it's two things. One, it's the work ethic, but it's not just the senior players; it's the younger players. They're all involved. It's all like back to square one. It doesn't matter if you're an under 23 or a fringe player or squad player or a guaranteed starter. They're all being trained in the same manner, which is great because I had that interview obviously with Sabi at the end of the season, in the last season, and we spoke about it'll feed through the academy teams as well as the first team. It's about the same system, the same style, whether it's be a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1, or even at times we will play a diamond. I'm not kidding. At times we will. It's about the fundamentals will stay the same, the principles will stay the same, but there will be slight change whether it be the system depending on the opposition. But I like the fact that the players are working in that way, diverse. They're moving quicker with the ball, and it's actually good to see some positive body language. I mean, the amount of times I've seen United, I don't know if they're just doing it on purpose, but the amount of times I keep seeing the tweets from United players, obviously because everyone knows I do edits, the smiling, the players, like the body language, it looks more positive. But when it gets down to it, I don't mind them having a bit of smile on the training ground. But when it gets to obviously the Liverpool game in pre-season, so forward, I want to see those smiles change. I want to see it change to anger. I want to see it change to aggression, not so they get sent off, but I want to see aggression where they want to get stuck in, they want to play the way Ten Hag wants. They're focused, they're fueled, they're ready to go. Smile on the training ground, get real stuck in. I think the way it's been so far, I'm thinking that body language will reflect. And that's why I think that's probably the best change so far.
it's minimal changes, but look, hopefully next week when they do go on tour,
I'm not getting overly hyped though, of course.
yeah, let's see them. They go on tour and let's see how Ten Hag can implement some things. But I'm conscious about time. It is 9:15. I'd want to touch on this final subject last. So again, as I said, I'm 45 minutes into the show and I haven't got moody yet. Probably till now. It's obviously this man is a touchy subject for me. I always defend him, Joe, to hell and back. But Cristiano Ronaldo, Mark, looks like he wants to leave the football club. It looks like it's 2009 all over again. Looks like I'm actually going to relive my childhood all over again. I did it when he came back, but looks like now I'm going to relive that traumatic part of the childhood where he leaves. People are saying, or he's getting a lot of criticism in the past kind of 24 to 48 hours because people are saying he's leaving when the going gets tough. From what we've been hearing, he's questioning Manchester United's ambition to be challenging for trophies. Where do you stand on Ronaldo? Because if we do lose him, we're just left with one Anthony Martial as a senior striker left in the football club. If Cristiano Ronaldo was to leave, Mark, would you be concerned about our season going forward, considering we did just finish sixth and we finished a good bit away from the top four?
Yeah, I would be concerned, but I think there's probably more to it than what we're seeing. My heart is disappointed. We can all sort of go back 12 months and get all excited and giddy about the romance of him coming back. But my head totally understands. Obviously, he came out a few weeks ago and there were sort of mumblings that he was disappointed. And I totally get it. You know, it's not the same club that he would have been a part of when he left the first time. You know, there was a lot more higher expectations. We can talk about that all day, but I get it. You know, he's coming to the twilight of his career, and he wants to be pushing for more trophies. He wants to be in the Champions League. I totally understand, and I don't begrudge him for that. But I do feel there's more to it. I feel that, we had a show a few weeks back about finances, share price. I think that there's probably a lot of truth to the Glazers, and the fact that they may be looking, or at least trying to maybe get some more funding, or potentially sell. Who knows? I hope more than anything, but he could be doing us a massive favour as well. He's the only one that's really said about the ambition, and where the club is, and the lack of signings, and I can't. It's a disappointing one, obviously. And as you asked me about whether we're going to struggle, I think we will if he leaves, unless we can get a last minute striker in, because I don't think we can really be reliant on Martial, Rashford, to get those goals. But then again,
you
I
look
think
outside of Martial, like if you look at like natural strikers left in the club, Ronaldo leaves, you're left with Anthony Martial. Marcus can play there, but then you're left with Charlie McNeil. That's literally what you're left with.
Yeah,
Now, I think Charlie is going to be a brilliant player,
It's too soon.
but it's too soon
too
because
soon.
like Martial doesn't have a great injury record either. So if you're expecting Martial to play a load of games in the season, you're struggling there. I think you are, and I think this is where do we have to patronise Ronaldo to stay? Probably. We're probably gonna have to give him the armband. We're probably gonna have to bring in a couple of more players for him to stay. Long term for Ten Hag's project, is he going to be there? No. But I think for this season, I think he should be still at the club, because if we sell Ronaldo and we don't get someone in, we're left with Martial. Martial gets injured and is out for a time because he has picked up quite a few muscle injuries, Anthony Martial.
Yeah.
And if he does get injured, you're kind of left with Rashford as I suppose, a striker,
Backup
a
number
winger
9.
who can play as a striker, and then you're left to Charlie McNeil. Obviously, Danny Miller's left the club as well. So, like,
Correct.
it's not like there's an older striker to play there. So, like, that's where I'm worried if we do leave Ronaldo go, is if I don't trust the club to bring someone in that quickly of quality.
Yeah, I totally
That's-
agree. I think United were probably looking to replace him next summer. I think that was the idea.
Yeah.
I actually think this summer as well, I think a CDM, whilst I agree with whoever said it earlier, and I've been banging on for 2 years, is a very, very important position. I don't think they're going to fill that this summer. I think that with Ten Hag's system, if you've got the majority of the ball and playing a high press, I think you will be able to do enough. And if Martinez comes in, he could fill that hole, that sort of thing, And I think they were probably looking to do that too. I think it is a problem, but I think it's more. I think there's more to it. I think it's just making feelings known towards the owners. I don't think he's going to leave this summer. I think that we will do enough in order to keep him. It's obviously a worrying bit of time, but I think we'll be okay regardless whether he goes or not. But I think he'll stay.
I bloody well hope so. And just for this, guys, just as Mark said, Ronaldo is making his feelings known towards the owners of the football club. I'm going to bring something up here now. Bring up a banner. Ronaldo is Glazers out, lads. Cristiano Ronaldo is Glazers out. He's going to have a green and gold scarf, if he's still here, at the Rayo Vallecano game in Old Trafford, and he's going to be singing "We Want Glazers Out" with us at the protest. But yeah, Fred, talk to me. What are your thoughts when this situation has come up? Are you concerned about this, or do you think Manchester United should be looking to the future, maybe giving some of these younger players a chance?
Very torn on this. I think if we had alternatives, if we had one more striker, I wouldn't have been that too concerned.
If Cavani or something still here.
This is the problem, because Cavani's gone now. If Cavani was there, I'd say okay, we could have coped. The problem is, I can't see us signing. If we're going for De Jong, I can't see us signing a striker, given the time, given the proportion of a budget that a striker takes out of your sort of purse. Also, who is there in terms of quality? I don't think there's many quality available, affordable strikers in the market at the moment. I just find the timing very odd. Why now? Why not when the season ended? I mean, we knew we weren't going to be in the Champions League. We knew certain players were leaving. Why now? Is it just the ambition, or does he have something lined up? I mean, also, if he does have someone lined up, then I can't see anyone else paying him the wages he's on. It's just a little bit odd. So I was a bit surprised when it came out. So especially, I think he's quoted as well saying, he's behind Ten Hag when we appointed him, etc., etc. The worrying thing is the lack of options in the strike, in the striking position. So inevitably, they're going to. Martial is returning from loan. The club are going to treat that as not as a new signing, but as a head in that position. I think you're going to see Bruno play through the middle, like Tadic was employed at Ajax. Ten Hag has that up his sleeve. That's probably why we're stacking the midfield as well, just to cover that creative aspect. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of changes next season. But in terms of Ronaldo going, it's not too big of an issue, in my opinion. I appreciate there's a lot of goals going, but in terms of the bigger picture, it would have been nice to keep him for maybe one more year. But if we're going to do a reset, this is a hard reset if Ronaldo goes, getting rid of Pogba, getting rid of, Mata, Matic, add Ronaldo to that, because Ronaldo isn't, he's not the solution to why we want to be going forward. Equally, where do those goals come from? I don't know. So I'm very contradicted in my sort of feelings towards this. But I'm not as sort of heart-struck as some others would be. But yeah, whether this changes the transfer strategy, that remains to be seen. But I mean, I think even Ragnick mentioned that we needed a striker sort of around January time, didn't he? And that was while we had Cavani and Ronaldo. So yeah, we need someone, whether we employ someone in a loan option or something else. But yeah, I think we'll see Bruno and some of the midfielders fill that void sort of next season.
I just to interject here, actually, I wholly agree with what you're saying, Fred. I don't think it's too bad, actually. Just to add to that, I think that if we lost him, yes, we'd lose a lot of goals. I don't think Ronaldo would potentially fit his system. So I don't think it'd be too bad. It's a lot of wages that you can get maybe 3 or 4 top players for. I think that if you look at the systems that Ten Hag has had, obviously at Ajax, he's turned someone like Sebastian Haller into the number 9, or at least a target man that he was. And I think that if you were to get someone like maybe Anthony, who have been highly linked with as well, for around 50 million, I think that he could do that job perfectly. So I get the sentiment behind it. I think there's more to it, but I don't think it's doom and gloom if he does go. My only other concern is as well that today there was reports from respected journalists that obviously they'll listen to offers for Telles, and Wan-Bissaka, a few other players, can't remember them all, and Martial. Now, that kind of points to me that I don't think he will go if Martial is going to obviously potentially go as well.
Yeah, it's strange. It really is. And one of them, like, I'd hate to see him leave because not only he's my favourite player, which he is, I'm not going to sugarcoat that, but I'm just concerned about leaving Anthony Martial, who had a very poor loan spell in Seville, and then also his injury record. It would be dangerous, I think, to get rid of him. Because let's say we put Bruno up front and he continues the form he had in the second half of last season, you have a problem. I think that's where I'd look at it.
Can I just say, I'd be fuming if he goes to Chelsea. Absolutely fuming.
He won't.
I
He's
don't
under
see it.
contract. United won't
see it
allow it. Yeah, United won't allow it. He's not going to go to anyone immediate. He's got a year left on his contract.
Yeah.
It won't happen.
I can't see him going, just to reiterate that. But
yeah, and just for Evan and Sean, who are on our Talk of League podcast, as our Chelsea fans, if that does come on, you will see this United podcast, and it will be folded and it'll be put private, so you two fuckers can't comment on it. If you do sign Ronaldo, but Reece, just finally, we have wrapped up there in a couple of minutes. Just give your brief thoughts just on Cristiano Ronaldo and this situation.
I've been seeing it all day. I've not been active on social media in terms of like retweeting and tweeting and all that, but I've seen our group chat. I've barely commented on it. And the reason why is because I actually don't see him leaving personally. I don't think he will. And the reason I don't is because there's already been like the comments about he's feeding, like him and Jorge Mendes are feeding out that he's trying to move clubs. I generally think it's just a bargaining chip to force United's hand to sign players. I don't think he wants you. Like, I think he's fine with United signing an Eriksen because that's a creative player, and he wants a creative player around him besides Fernandes. But I also think he'll want additional quality there besides De Jong. He'll want someone in there like who'll run around him, like do the harder work, so he can just focus on goals, which is always motivated by goals and trophies. I don't necessarily see him moving, but if he does leave, he ain't going to Chelsea. He's not going to Italy. He's not going to Bayern Munich. He's not going to France. He's not going back to Real Madrid. He's going back to Portugal. You heard it here first. He's going back to Sporting Lisbon. I don't see anything concrete for me that suggests he's leaving. For me, it's purely just to force the hand of the club to make signings that he deems applicable. Because you look at the team we had, like you said, 08, 09, you had 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 world-class players in that squad. Right now, we don't have that. Maybe 1 or 2 at best. He wants United to bring in players that he deems quality, and obviously these two are still having their love fest, so nobody's going to get involved. Right now, Marc is still getting sermoned. But on the whole, on the flip side, I don't think Ronaldo is leaving. And even if Ronaldo did leave, I personally don't care. I seen him leave 13 years ago. That was worse. 13 years ago was harder because he compared it to being a slave. Not the best analogy he should have ever made in his life. Not the best analogy anyone should make in their life. Now, United aren't where he deems United to be, and if he leaves, then fine. I've got no real issue with that. My issue would be is if he does leave, United won't bring anyone in quality. I agree with what you said earlier. United won't bring anyone in. I think if we do move Ronaldo on, one forward isn't enough. It has to be 2. It has to be a winger and a striker. One that's multifunctional and one that is a specialist in the central role. But I don't see him leaving. I genuinely don't see him leaving. I think he'll stay this season, but I don't think you'll see him in the Europa League. Not a chance.
Well, United better win the Europa League because Keane's going to Budapest. That's all I'm going to say. Keane's going to Budapest. United better win this Europa League. Or at least get to the final anyway, because that'd be some session. But we're going to wrap it up there, guys. We will actually elaborate more on the Ronaldo situation later on the week when more does come out. I will bring out a podcast either Thursday or Friday this week. Myself and Marc will arrange that. We will have a further Man United podcast this week. And obviously, look, if anything does break, we will do one of the evenings this week. If and when Man United do break any further news. But as always, guys, thanks very much for coming on. Thanks to Marc and Gillette. Thanks to Freddie. And thanks to Reece for coming on here this evening. And as always, guys, if you're watching live or you're watching on the replay, do hit like in the video. It does a lot to help us. And also, do subscribe, hit the bell notification right below Reece there. But thanks very much to everyone for tuning in this evening. Thanks everyone for their comments. And hopefully, look, Man United do sign a few more players, and we're in even more positive spirits on next week's show. But until then, guys, thanks very much, and we'll see you in a while.